Hey everyone, I will be covering my Toxic Cup that I did this past week. And so this Toxic Cup was actually probably the most stacked tournament that has probably ever happened in history. And so this tournament was hosted by Gym Breakers, and in total there were 123 players. Almost everyone was an ace, and the only two people that weren't ace were elite ranking. So like I said, probably the most stacked tournament in history. So I decided to run with Escavalier, Flygon, Wormadam, Bibarel, Drapion, and Shadow Golbat. And so for the most part, all the moves are pretty standard. Escavalier, I was running Aerial Ace and Drill Run, and it was Ice Fang Drapion. And then for Golbats, I decided to go with Shadow Golbat, and the main reason behind this is because Shadow Golbat actually beats Bibarel in 0 and 2 shields. It's still losing in 1 shield, but regular Golbat doesn't beat Bibarel in any shield situations. And so that's a matchup that I was kind of hoping that a lot of my opponents didn't know about, but also it just gives me kind of an upper hand in some situations, and Bibarel is much less of a threat to my team. I'll go over the matches, I'll talk a little bit more about my strategy and stuff, but overall there wasn't a specific strategy I was going by. It kind of depended a lot on the teams my opponents brought, which I think in some ways is reflective of the health of the meta and how there's a lot of variety that can go on in it. Okay, so going into my first matchup, I'm going against Head Sentries. If I pronounce any names wrong, I apologize ahead of time. I'm going with Bibarel, Drapion, and Escavalier against this team. And so this is a decent matchup against Wormadam, especially if my opponent didn't shield. Wormadam only really wins this matchup if it has... okay, so actually I kind of made a mistake there and did not shield the Bug Buzz, and so that was actually kind of costly because now I kind of lost switch advantage right there. So I probably should have shielded right there. I thought that my opponent might have been going for an Iron Head bait, so I kind of lagged right there. What I was trying to do is switch, and so traditionally I would drop Aero Ace. I know that Drill Run's resisted, but that was actually a misclip, but either way, my opponent ended up shielding. And at this point, too, I kind of realized I probably lost this matchup. I'm pretty far behind at this point. But yeah, so that Drill Run was a complete misplay on my end. It was just, I was in the middle trying to switch, and then it was just lagging a little bit. But either way, this match is definitely over for me. And so, and Pidgeot's kind of a little bit hard for my team to address in some ways. I don't know, maybe that's just my playstyle, but in the past I've kind of struggled a little bit against Pidgeot. So going in next match, I'm going in with Wormadam, Flygon, and Drapion. And like I said too, this is a really stacked tournament, and so even from round 1 already starting, it's pretty tough versus some smaller tournaments or other tournaments with a little more wider range of skill levels with players. Some rounds might be a little bit easier than others, but yeah, I would say almost every single matchup in this tournament was pretty tight. Surprisingly, my opponent does not shield, but was able to still land the Iron Head, so that actually puts him in a pretty good spot. And we're going to drop the Dragon Claw right here, so my opponent either has to shield or lose the Bibarel, and surprisingly my opponent decides to drop that, which is fine. So now I'm going to go in with Ice Fang Drapion, and I'm kind of hoping that the Brave Bird wouldn't be able to take me out. If it was Hurricane, it probably would have been a little bit closer, but I'm going to try to chip this down, and then at this point I have my Wormadam, and about one more confusion should do it, and that was it. So still pretty close. And then going into match number 3, the deciding match, I have Escavalier, Wormadam, and Bibarel. And so Escavalier, pretty solid matchup against Drapion right here. If I land a Drill Run, really good, but if I don't, that could be tricky. So Aqua Tail was a pretty solid bait by my opponent, and then now I'm going to try to land the Aerial Ace. It's going to do a ton of damage, and now I'm going to go in with Wormadam. And so I'm going to shield this right here because close combat does actually a ton of damage to Wormadam, and it would have brought it down pretty close to low health. So at this point, that was I feel pretty good about it. Even though I'm shield down, I have a solid advantage in terms of switch priority. And then so right here, I'm just going to keep spamming out the Bug Buzz. And then I know I have a Escavalier that I can kind of take this out with. And then he's got to have to switch to Drapion at this point, which is not a great matchup. But I also have Bibarel in the back. And Bibarel has a great matchup against Drapion. I could pretty much just, if the Drapion doesn't die. And so it doesn't right here, but I could just farm it down for a little bit and then water gun down this Wormadam. Even if the Wormadam hits me with Bug Buzz, it's not going to be enough. And I was able to get to a Surf in time. So first round, a little dicey at first, but I was able to come out with a win on that one. And so going against David in game 2, and then so this is actually, we commented a little bit when we were chatting with each other beforehand that we have pretty much straight mirrors, and he actually does a really great job of switching and catching the Dragon Claw, but this now puts him in a precarious situation because he has lost switch advantage, and I'm able to take out his Wormadam and have a little bit of energy for his Flygon next. Which I assume is probably going to be coming out next, and that's the case. Then we use Aerial Ace right here, and then he also drops a charge move. I guess that was actually probably a CMP tie right there, so otherwise he probably could just farm me down. That puts me in a pretty good spot. And then my opponent switched again. So here's the funny part. We're actually running straight mirrors in this matchup too. And so I believe, yeah, I brought Wormadam as well in the back. And so that's going to be pretty interesting for this matchup. But I have 2 shield advantage at this point. And then what I'm going to do right here is chip the damage down on this Scavalier. And then now this is going to put it low enough that I could pretty much confusion down the Scavalier if I need to. But with shields down, I'm going to shield this. And it's an Earthquake too. So that would have one-shot me. Would have been pretty devastating too. I didn't expect that. I expected Earth Power. But that makes sense. And then, yeah, able to confusion down. There's a little bit of lag there, but it probably didn't make any difference either way. Going to the second matchup, I'm going in with Bibarel, Escavalier, and Wormadam. Yeah, so the reason why I'm not really bringing Shadow Golbat into this matchup is because Shadow Golbat does not have a great matchup with regular Golbat. Honestly, if either of them land the Shadow Ball or bait properly, then it's over. But if neither are baiting or both are baiting properly, it still ends up losing the mirror. So that's a big reason why I decided not to bring Shadow Golbat, because that is the one difference amongst our team. And obviously his Flygon is running Earthquake too. And so we both do a simultaneous switch right here. And then I am going to go with Bug Buzz, and I believe I might be a little bit ahead on my opponent because my guess is that his attack stat is probably fairly similar to mine, or actually he might just press it late too. I have a pretty decently ranked Wormadam, so that's the only reason why I kind of assumed I was going to lose the CMP right here. And right here we decide to go in, and he gets to the Iron Head first, and then I'm going to just try to farm down my opponent, but he does a very quick switch, which was very smart on his end, and was able to take me out with Dragon Claw. And so that was match number 2. And so going to match number 3, I am going to bring Shadow Golbat. So like I said, it wasn't the best matchup initially, but I decided to switch it up, expecting that he wouldn't expect it. And Shadow Golbat has a very great matchup against Scavalier, so that's why it was a great situation. And then he also doesn't even go for the bait, goes straight for Earthquake, and doesn't shield too. So that puts me up pretty far ahead. And then I'm going to be able to get to another serve. If my opponent doesn't shield, go back and farm it down. And actually happened to be, he also dropped his charge move. And now I can bring in Shadow Golbat, and it's Wormadam. And then perfect counter with for its Scavalier. So I'm just going to go straight for Drill Run. Not even going to mess around. My opponent does shield. And because he shields, I believe I match shields as well, because I don't want to be put in a situation where Golbat has to match up with Wormadam. Because that's not going to be a good situation, especially with Shadow Bat. Now I was able to farm a little bit more and then go straight for the Aerial Ace. I think there might have been slight lag on my opponent's end, but there's no way that Scavalier would have been able to take out the Golbat. So we both agreed to keep moving forward. So going into round number 3, it's Pipilnur, and I think, yeah, so sorry, my footage was a little bit slower on that one. But I'm going to go in with Drapion, Flygon, and Scavalier. And so what I realized is my opponent actually doesn't have a great matchup with Flygon. The reason why I decided to lead with Drapion is because if I switch in my own Flygon into his Flygon, then I'm going to lose that matchup. But if he is forced to switch out or didn't bring Flygon, or he switches his Flygon to my Flygon, then I'm going to win that matchup because I'm ahead by 1 turn of energy, if he was really quick. So, like I said, Flygon does really well against his pretty much whole lineup. Golbat's probably like one of the better counters to it, but either way, I feel pretty good about this matchup, and I'm getting ready for a switch. I'm not going to shield this, I'm assuming it's Poison Fang. There's no way he could get to 2 Shadow Balls that quickly, and I go straight with a Crunch. This is going to put me in a good spot because now I can farm down his Escavalier with mine, and I don't even think I shield just because well, that actually did quite a bit of damage, but I know that the Golbat is still in the back, and I'm going to want to save the shield for that because I have a pretty positive matchup right there. And yeah, so I was going to take first match with that. And I decided to go with Drapion, Flygon, and Escavalier again. And again, because the strategy worked out well, and he does lead with Flygon, so it's actually a pretty good situation for me. And then, like I said, now that he has to switch out his own Flygon, my Flygon's going to be able to take out this Bibarel, even if we match shields. And he actually didn't even shield, so that puts me in an even better spot because Bibarel can't spam out the surfs as quickly as these Dragon Balls come out. So I'm going to be able to put a ton of shield pressure on, and then even if he brings his own Flygon out, I'm going to be able to hit it likely with a Dragon Claw right there. And so that's probably going to force him to shield, and he does. And he hits me with his own Dragon Claw. I'm going to let this go because I have my own Drapion. Going to take out this with just, yeah. So I'm going to shield right here in case it's Earth Power. It's not, but either way, now I'm in a pretty good spot. And then it doesn't shield. And then it's a Wormadam, and like I said, I still have a Escavalier in the back, and so that's going to be a really good matchup, and he chooses not to shield too, so at this point, I probably could just counter down this Wormadam, and so that's probably what I'm going to do right here. I'm not going to shield, and it's probably even Ironhead is, or even Bug Buzz wouldn't have been enough, and just counter straight down. And then I go into the third match, same exact team again, just because it's worked so well, why not, why stop, right? And so I'm going to go straight in with an Earth Power, just because a failed bait right here would be pretty disastrous. My opponent actually does not shield, so that's pretty good. So now I could pretty much, I was going to farm it down, but my opponent decides to switch Bibarel. Not a terrible idea, but at this point, I'm going to be able to counter down this Bibarel with Escavalier. And my opponent comes in, probably won't be Steelix, so it's his own Escavalier. So this is kind of tricky, to be honest, because I'm going to have to do quite a bit of damage to his Escavalier with my Drapion, because especially my opponent's shields right here, and my opponent does. So now I'm kind of in a trickier situation, but he ends up actually switching, which is kind of odd. And so now I have enough energy for a crunch, which actually puts me ahead. So I think had he just stayed in with Escavalier, it might have been better. But I could see the dilemma there, because then he'd have to leave his Steelix to my Escavalier. So going into the fourth matchup against Ventusky. And so Ventusky, I recognize quite a bit from just the leaderboards. I believe at the moment, or at the time of this tournament, he was ranked number 2. Also didn't fall for the bait, which is pretty impressive, and then also doesn't shield again. So not a great situation for me. And now I'm going to try to force one shield with this Dragon Claw, and I was not even able to get a shield. So he's feeling very confident against my Flygon, and I'm going to drop a Dragon Claw. It's not going to be enough to take out this Toxic Growth, but he does decide to shield. And then now I'm in a really tricky situation because I have Drapion and Escavalier in the back, both weak to Toxic Growth. And then right here, my opponent goes in with Steelix, but I have no shields, and I'm going to have to go straight for the drill run. Can't really take any chance there. My opponent doesn't even shield this. Very gutsy with his no shields. But very good timing, though, too, because he landed the Earthquake still, and now he's in a very comfortable position, even with a shield left. So that's round number 1. Did not do so well there. I'm going in with Flygon, Golbat, and Escavalier for this one. And so, kind of like the last team too, Flygon has a pretty solid matchup against a decent amount of his team. So I know that this Steelix won't be able to get to another crunch before I get to a second Earth Power. So let's just see if he just has a double shield or not. He does decide to double shield. And at this point, I'm going to double shield as well, because I know that I can get to Earth Power before he can get to another crunch, or take me out with Dragon Tails. Very close though, but was able to take that match. And then now I have Switch Advantage, which is pretty big. And then now I have Golbat, take him out with against his Escavalier. And then now I bring my Escavalier against Wormadam. And this is pretty much GG's, just because the Golbat's going to be able to resist pretty much all the moves that Toxic Growth throws at. And then I actually have enough for a drill run, and then there's some weird lag going on right there. I was doing a couple excellence right there, but either way, it wouldn't have mattered because Golbat was in the back. Going into the last matchup, I'm going to go in with Flygon, Wormadam, and Escavalier. So I swapped out the bat for the Wormadam, and so this is kind of tricky too, because Pidgeot's pretty solid against the rest of my team. So I'm going to have to actually stay in this matchup. And luckily my opponent does not shield. And I think he kind of realizes too late that he needs to shield, because now he knows that Pidgeot is really crucial to use against the rest of my team. So now he's decided to double shield. I guess it wouldn't have mattered because he still ended up using both shields. And then I'm going to go in with Scavalier. And the reason why I go in Scavalier is because Pidgeot is also part normal, so it's taking neutral damage from counters rather than resisted. And then I go for a quick switch into Wormadam. And then Wormadam is going to be in a pretty good spot right here. I'm not going to shield. And the reason I don't shield is because, one, I know I could tank the Surf, and also the other reason is because if I was losing that matchup, my Scavalier can just take it out with Drill Run later on the Toxicroak. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do right here. I do have one shield up advantage, and I'm going to use the Drill Run and take out this Toxicroak. So was able to make a comeback on that one. So going on to round number 5, going against my friend Toshi. Toshi actually has a pretty distinct team. And so if you think his team doesn't work, definitely mistaken, because he went 6-1 in this tournament and was probably the number 2 in tiebreaker scores. So yeah, so very strong team, very odd team. But what I've recognized is that also very weak to Flygon, and so that's kind of why I decided to go in with Flygon lead. And then I'm going to shield right this because of the Psychic, which it is. It's going to do quite a bit of damage. I'm not exactly sure how much damage it's going to do, but I want to be safe because I haven't played that matchup before. And then I'm going to drop the Drill Run right there and force a shield. And then now Sludge is going to do quite a bit of damage, but I'm going to go straight for the Hyper Feint to get the extra damage on this Alolan Muck. And then now my Scavalier can just counter down this Executor because it's very glassy against Shadow Executor too. Okay, so going into the second matchup, I'm going in with Wormadam, Flygon, and Scavalier. And from what I know, because Executor is so glassy, just one Iron Head's enough. So what I'm gonna do is just try to match shields right here. It's so glass, and so he actually decides to switch. And then so right here, I'm not gonna shield Dark Pulse. It's gonna do quite a bit of damage, but it's gonna be okay. And then I'm gonna go in straight with the Dragon Claw bait. He doesn't fall for it, but this means that I could get to another one in time. And then I still have a shield up, and I choose not to shield, interestingly enough. And then so I'm gonna go in with Scavalier. And I guess the reason why I go in Scavalier is because there's not much that his team can resist when I'm using Drill Run. And so Drill Run pretty much does super effective damage against most of his team, and then Air Race does super effective damage against Executor. So actually a really good swap right there if you didn't see it. So he swapped in Executor to absorb the Drill Run damage. Very impressive play. But at that point, I was able to just confusion down his Quillfish. Yeah, so that was actually a really impressive play because I actually didn't even see the switch in. It happened so fast. I only noticed it until the Drill Run was happening. So going into round number 3, I'm going in with the same team: Wormadam, Flygon, and Scavalier. Worked pretty well last time. So I'm gonna go in straight away. And like I said, one Iron Head takes out Alolan Executor. So not Alolan Executor, sorry, Shadow Executor. So that was a big reason why I just went straight for that. And then Bug Buzz will do quite a bit of damage right here. And then I'm going to go in quickly with a switch to Scavalier. I'm not going to shield because I know it's going to be Dark Pulse. Sludge Wave would be resisted. And then now I'm going to have enough energy to drop a Drill Run on this Quillfish. He does choose a shield, which is a good call. And then I was trying to draw a charge move right there. I choose not to shield this, kind of hoping it goes to bait. And at this point, I'm going to shield the Aqua Tail. If it was Ice Beam, it would have taken me out for sure. And so I'm going to go in with a Dragon Claw because I know it's, it's close to taking it out. But now I have enough still for Earth Power. So yeah, so that was my game with Toshi. He did really well in the tournament too, so definitely congrats to him. And then going into round number 6, I'm going against Angelino. Thunder Fang Steelix has actually not a great matchup against Flygon because Flygon's really going to resist the electric damage. So I feel really comfortable now. Before, had it been just Dragon Tails, it would have done quite a bit of damage because it's super effective against Flygon. But because of this opposite moveset, it's better against Bibarel, but it's terrible against Flygon. And so now you're going to see the power of energy generation from Mudshot with Dragon Claw spams. If you look at this, I got off 4 Dragon Claws against this Golbat. Obviously, I had a little bit of energy farmed up beforehand, but that's pretty ridiculous too. I literally took out Steelix and Golbat with just Flygon without having to expend a single shield. So yeah, feeling very comfortable at this point, and then I'm just gonna try to. I think, yeah, I wasn't trying to confuse it now. I just couldn't get to charge move in time, and then now I could. And then I'm gonna take out this lone muck. So my opponent actually decides to, shield it, but at that point, confusion was enough. Going in to the second matchup, I go in with Flygon, Escavalier, and Wormadam. Knowing that Flygon has such a good matchup even against Steelix now. And before I had a decent matchup too, but I felt pretty comfortable opening with the lead. Is really mainly worried about Golbat's not the best matchup, but I did shield the Shadow Ball, so that helps significantly. And then Wigglytuff is the one I'm really nervous about. But I have 2 Seals on my team as well as Golbat, and so that's actually enough pause for someone to consider not bringing Wigglytuff into my team. And so able to win that matchup. I really want switch advantage right here, and so that's kind of why I spent so much into it. And then I'm going straight in with Dragon Claw. Hopefully my opponent thinks it's Earth Power, and it is. And then now I actually get another Dragon Claw, which is a pretty nice situation right there. And then also draw the charge move, which worked out really, really well. And then now I'm going to go in with Wormadam. And the reason I went with Wormadam over Escavalier is because it's just so tanky, so it's going to tank the Dark Pulse much better. And then I go quickly with Escavalier switch, and then Thunderfang also charges moves slower than Dragon Tail, to my understanding, I believe. And so the energy generation is slower there, and so therefore I felt pretty comfortable to just go even, no shields there. And then going into third matchup, I go in with Golbat, Escavalier, and Wormadam. And my opponent does a quick switch right away. I'm not sure if it's because he wanted to save his Golbat for something else later, or he didn't know that he probably could beat me if he just stayed in that matchup. Either way, I decided to don't shield that right there because I feel okay because I still have Escavalier and Wormadam in the back. And so I'm getting ready to switch to Wormadam, and my opponent has Thunderfang Steelix. Not a great situation right here. So yeah, puts me in a bad spot for sure. This is not a matchup that I could win. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, what I need to do is farm down the Steelix as much as possible, and then that way I can take out the Golbat. But he's actually playing really smart. He's trying to reduce his HP to as low as possible. I choose not to shield the Crunch. Debatably, was that a good idea? I don't know. And then I shield the Poison Fang, which definitely was not a good idea. And then now, I know it's pretty much over because my opponent still has a shield. Yeah, and there's no way that can get to another 2 more aerial aces in time. Also baiting me with another Poison Fang. But even if I didn't shield the Poison Fang, my opponent would be able to take me out with just straight wing attacks too. And so, yeah, Shadow Ball for good measure. So, good games to Angelino. And then now I'm going to finals. Both me and Vanny were 6-0 at this point. I was kind of in shock, to be honest, because I was playing so many top players. And honestly, if you look at most of those matchups, there are a lot of them that could have gone one way or another. So, was just excited just to even be at this point in the tournament. And so, yeah, not a great situation for me. I'm trying to burn a shield off of this Bibarel. Luckily, he does drop a charge move, so that gives me a little chance because he can't farm me down. But I'm kind of coming from pretty far from behind at this point, and then so he has Night Slash, going to do quite a bit of damage to Escavalier, and then I have Bibarel. But the main thing is this Wormadam is still going to be able to match up pretty well just from confusion damage alone. I don't know if I should have shielded that or not. I don't think it would have mattered. So my opponent does shield twice right there, and then right here this Iron Head. Unfortunately, I think I purposely did not use the Surf because I wanted to get 1 more counter damage off this farm a little bit more with this Cavalier, but like I said, it was a little too late against Gliscor. So great reads by Vanny right there, and then now I'm going with Bibarel, Flygon, and Escavalier. Of course, lost the lead again, and this is kind of where I make some mistakes. And so, obviously, hindsight is 20/20 right here. But he doesn't switch out Escavalier, which means that the rest of this lineup actually struggles against Flygon. And so, what I should have really done right here is baited Dragon Claws. But instead, I went straight for Earth Power both times, and he ended up shielding both times. So now I'm going with Dragon Claw, and yeah, that's going to do a little bit of damage, but he has a bunch of energy left. And it's just not going to be a good time for me. And he has Mega Horn too, which does quite a bit of damage even though it's resisted. And then I'm going to go straight in with Bibarel against his Flygon. It's not going to be great just because we know how spammy Flygon is. And he swapped out his Escavalier too. So even if he loses this matchup, he could farm down again. Well, actually he decides to farm with Bibarel actually. So, but I don't think it really is going to matter. He's going to be able to get to a Surf in time and take me out. So, congrats to Vanny on sweeping the 7-0 Super ACES Mega Cup. We played the third round, of course, and so this time I decided to go in Shadow Bat. I'm like, why not? Might as well try it, and it actually works out pretty well because now I have a Bibarel matchup too. I don't think there was a lot of, if any, Golbat versus Bibarel matchups, but as you can see right there, the Poison Pain does quite a bit of damage. And so I swap in my Escavalier, and then I'm going to use Aero Ace to do some chip damage. He farms a little bit, and that's fine. Now I'm going to bring in my Shadow Bat. Still have a decent amount of health on it, but I decided to shield it because I want to keep it alive in case he decides to constantly shield his Escavalier. And then I bring in my Bibarel, and I knew that Bibarel would be a good swap no matter what because his top counter to Bibarel is Escavalier, and he had to swap it out himself. And so right here, I'm just going to tank Dragon Claw, and then kind of glad that my HP is kind of low, so you can't farm too much on it. And now go straight for Shadow Ball at this point. If he doesn't shield, great. If not, I'll just whittle him down with wing attacks. And I keep going down with wing attacks until he's pretty low enough, and then we go straight for Poison Fang. No need to charge up all the way to Shadow Ball. Plus, that would have been a little bit risky with Air Ace. So yeah, so that was the tournament. I finished 6-1. Do not remind me why I did not rank this tournament or weight it as my 10x. I chose not to, so unfortunately there were no significant self-ranking adjustments for me, but that's all good. I had a ton of fun, and hopefully they'll host another one sometime in April for Voyager Cup. If you would like to see Vanny's vantage point of his 7-0 sweep, King actually posted a video on his channel, so I'll link that down below, so feel free to check that out, and so you can see Vanny's vantage point and the team and how he used everything, because I think a 7-0 team in this big of a tournament with such great players overall really has a lot of value to it. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share, and subscribe for future content. Ultra League, Go Battle League will be coming out this Friday, so be on the lookout for videos of that, and I'll see you all next time.